Hey YouTube, it's Afronique, and today I wanted to talk about gluten intolerance. So I found out recently that I have an intolerance to gluten, and I've been looking into it and kind of learning some things. And it's something that I think a lot of people may be having an issue with, but are really not aware about it. So I really wanted to try to take the time to kind of share some of the things that I've learned and hopefully can help someone else. So what gluten is wheat, barley, and rye. And what happens if you have an intolerance to it is when you ingest it, you can have different adverse symptoms to it. For me, one of the main issues that I have bloating. And what it is, you have difficulty digesting it, and it can cause you to also have difficulty digesting other things, including like the vitamins from your food, so you can end up being malnourished. So the way that I found out that I have an intolerance to it is when I was doing the 12-week Jamie Eason's Live Fit trainer. I had lost a lot of weight, so much so that I was underweight, and I still didn't have a flat belly. And so I was just kind of researching online, trying to see what different people would say could be the issue with it. I had tried a lot of different things and nothing worked. But I came across the fact that bread wasn't good for you, and that some people would have issues when they ate bread, they would get bloated. So I would look back on my food diary, and I noticed that yes, that I did get bloated after I would eat like a lentil burger, with a sprouted wheat bun, and things like that. And so I cut, the bread and like the pasta from my diet, thinking, that I was good. But as I researched more into gluten, I found out that they pretty much put gluten in pretty much everything. So I was still getting the thing that was causing me issues in my diet still. So what I did was I went on an elimination diet. They recommend that you try elimination diet for at least 2 weeks to see if you notice a difference. For me, I noticed it within the first couple of days. I just felt lighter, and I could just really tell a difference from not eating it anymore. And my bloating, I could tell my belly had went down some and everything. So so far I've been on the elimination diet for 8 weeks so far. And another thing that I realized after I was on the diet for about a week, I actually ate something that had been cross-contaminated with gluten. And what that means is you have to, when you're trying to avoid gluten, since they put it in a lot of things, you definitely have to read your labels and make sure there's no wheat, barley, or rye in it. And then there's other certain things that have wheat in it too, like soy sauce, for example. Most soy sauce do have that in there. Soy sauce. So different things like that you have to just kind of learn what kind of things you need to avoid, so you're always reading the label. So I had read the label on something that I bought that was like pre-made, and it was good, there was nothing in it. But I had missed the part where they talked about the fact that they processed it in a factory that also had wheat. And so after I ate this, I got really, really sick. And my stomach just felt really hard and heavy, and I just felt, it was just a really sick feeling that I had. I could definitely tell the difference, from how I felt when I wasn't eating the gluten. So at first I was kind of really disappointed that it happened, because it does take a while for you to heal from it. So like every, day counts. And once you introduce it back into your system, you're starting over again from day one, because your body just attacks it so hard that, it doesn't even matter that you haven't had it for like a week before. Your body's going to have to start from that point on trying to heal from it, and it can't heal if you've eaten gluten. So I was upset about that at first, but then I was kind of like glad about it, because it just gave me confirmation that I do have a sensitivity to it. So that, because it can be kind of hard sometimes trying to make sure you're avoiding everything. So I don't think if I got that confirmation, then it maybe would have been easier for me to kind of backslide and then, maybe it was something else. I also stopped eating at that time, and that was what was causing me the issue. So now I know for sure it is gluten. I do have a sensitivity to it. So like I was saying, in order to avoid it, I really have to be careful to read the packaging to make sure it doesn't have the ingredients. Make sure that they haven't processed the food item in a facility that also handles wheat or anything, you know, like that, the other things I've said. And also, if they've used good practices to separate it, then that can be okay. And then I also just have to make sure if I go eat somewhere, if I'm getting a gluten-free pasta, making sure that I have to ask and make sure they're keeping that separate from the wheat pasta. Make sure they're not using the same like utensils right after each other, you know, to handle the wheat and the gluten-free and things like that. So it does take some work, so you do kind of want to, it's easier to follow if you know for sure you do have an issue with it, I would say that. You can get tested for it, but you would really need to go to a naturopath, and you would really have to have it in your system for them that's how they test for it, to see if you're sensitive to it. So like me, once I went off of it, they would have made me eat it and stuff like that to try to test me for it, and I wouldn't want to do that. But then also they use smaller labs, which is better than the big labs, because you can go like to a regular doctor, they're probably going to use a big lab, and you may get a result back that you're not sensitive to it when you really are. So I really didn't have the money for like the really specialized test, because it's usually, you know, it's not going to be covered by insurance. So I decided just to go with the elimination diet. And like I said, I've been doing it for 8 weeks so far. As far as how long it's going to take for me to heal, I don't know. I've read that it takes 4 months for the cells to repair themselves or replicate themselves, and then it can take 6 to 12 months for them to grow, for cellular growth to take place. So it can take a while. It just depends on just each individual, how well your body can heal itself, how well you're staying away from eating the gluten, and just also just kind of any other kind of things you have to stay away from in the process too. Like there's certain things that don't have gluten in them, but you also have to be clear of them. Like I figured out that teff was something I had started eating instead, but I realized that it kind of causes me issues also. So that's another thing that I have to avoid while I'm waiting for my gut to heal. The same thing with peanuts and corn. I also realized that I would get like the bloating after that. It wouldn't feel so good. So my body is just having a hard time digesting those things right now. Once it heals, I'll be able to reintroduce those things. I probably won't do the corn, but I'll reintroduce the nuts. So there's all these little things you just have to do to kind of help your body while it's trying to heal. As far as my digestion, I've learned that I can drink water with lemon in it, and I need to be finished drinking it at least 15 minutes before I eat. That will help with digestion. And you also have to not drink anything for 30 minutes after you eat. So I guess you can, I believe you kind of wash away the enzymes which help you digest the food if you drink too soon after eating. So I've learned that. You can also drink aloe vera juice to help, and glutamine is something I have to get, which I've also read helps with the healing process. So basically it's just kind of a waiting game. I have noticed my belly has got a little bit smaller, so I just have to wait and just see how long it takes before it completely goes away. I've read that while it's healing, that it kind of fills with water, and that's what can make the appearance of it, you know, looking bigger, of it making your belly look bigger. So I hope that was helpful. So other little things I have to do is, again, with the cross-contamination also, is like oats. Even though they don't have gluten in them, they're usually grown with wheat, so they get cross-contaminated. So I have to get special oats that are gluten-free, and I can't shop in the bulk bins because, you know, people can use maybe the same scoop for something, and then things get mixed up when they're kind of putting it in the containers in the back and stuff. So there's just a lot of different things you have to be careful of when you have a sensitivity to gluten. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them. And thanks for watching.